Hey, it's Phil Ratcliffe, and thanks for tuning in to our live broadcast today. We've got Sean here with us with Health Markets. He specializes in health insurance and for individuals and group, long-term care, disability, group benefits, right?
That's exactly
All
right.
right, that's a mouthful for me. Well, thanks so much for being here with us today, Sean.
Thanks for having me.
We had you on for short notice because we had a change, but I actually think for most of our clients this is an actually more important subject. So it was
always could be.
I was lucky, and we appreciate you coming here. So, health insurance, tell us a little bit, about what you do in health insurance, because it seems like it's grown into this huge thing for different people at different parts in their life. So tell us a little bit about you as an agent and how you help people with health insurance.
So I help individuals and families enroll into different plans depending on their needs. So we're living in a world where everybody has to get insurance, and they don't really know where to go. And so there's a whole different routes, there's a whole lot of different options, and I pretty much help navigate that for them.
And it's hard, right? Because I overheard you talking to Tony, and it's just like half the time you're just trying to help people, but it like gets political all the time when you talk about health insurance these days. But really the thing is, we're just trying to take care of ourselves and our family, and we got to do it in the most affordable way that we're eligible for at that time in our life, right?
That's exactly right.
And so people go through that transition of like, hopefully, well, maybe when you're young, you've got your parents' insurance and you don't even think about it, you're just covered, hopefully, if your parents are responsible. And then you go to work and you get your group coverage and you just pick whatever the open enrollment stuff is that looks good to you. And then individual in between work, maybe. And then now we got the exchanges, which makes it confusing for people. Do I buy Cobra or individual or exchange, et cetera, and then Medicare, and then Medicaid. So explain to us a little bit. I just wanted to just run through that, but explain to us, maybe like how a person would go through that transition, and then the different places where they could use a good agent like you to help them decide.
Sure. So the majority of people go through their employer and they receive the benefits, and they never want to think about it, because who does want to think about insurance?
Sure.
But then when you're not offered benefits through your employer, when you retire and when you lose your employment, then you have to buy it on your own.
Yeah.
And so that's the beauty of working with an agent like me. I represent all the top providers, and I can mostly help educate people on their options, and depending on their situation, probably navigate them through the different characters and situations, and then build a plan around their family's needs, wants, and budget.
Sure. And so I would say most people probably don't even know what they should select when something comes up, because it's probably harder with the group too, because then there aren't people like you around to help. If you work for, I guess, an awesome company, they've got HR people that'll educate people, but it seems like less and less companies have that ability. So maybe people buying the individual insurance are probably luckier to be able to go to an agent to get some help with the selection.
That's right. We actually work with a lot of self-employed people, a lot of business owners. So we do handle small groups, which is anywhere from 2 employees up to 50. And so I'm able to sit with business owners and explain to them 2 different routes. We can say we can put together a group insurance plan, and this is how it will work. You have to cover 50% of the monthly costs. Or we can switch all of your employees over to the individual route, and some of them may be able to qualify for some tax subsidy from the exchange, and it could work out. But either way, I pretty much become the HR rep in the office.
So when do you find, it makes sense for somebody to do a group versus not? Like us, I know I've shopped it, and it's cheaper to go through the exchange, and we do what's called a QSE HRA, so we can reimburse premiums if they don't get a subsidy. Or what so where do you find like that crossover point? Is it people that just have a young healthy group or something, or is it more when you get a certain size? Like where is that it makes more sense as an employer to do the small group rather than like reimbursement?
Well, it all depends. It depends how the business owner wants to take care of their employees. So a lot of them will say, I want to offer full benefits at no cost, but that's a substantial cost for the business owner.
Sure.
But then at the same time, they could be doing their employees a disservice, because the government's offering a tax credit based upon income, and so that right there can make everything more affordable through the Affordable Care Act.
Sure. Unless it goes away.
Unless it goes away. But this present day, it's still in place. So that's all we go off of.
So, where do you find yourself focusing most? Like on business owners or individuals that are buying individual insurance or Medicare? You know.
Well, everybody has different needs, and everybody's in a different situation. I would say most people are contractors, self-employed, business owners as well, and they just don't have another route or possibility to get insurance. So that's our primary focus, and then we're with our clients all the way up to the Medicare age, and we can handle all different lines of insurance at that point.
Cool. Okay. So a common problem that our clients have when they're lucky enough or have planned well enough to be able to retire pre-Medicare, which is age 65 for all you guys that don't know that, is that they're going to lose their group coverage, then they have to figure out individual and then flip to the Medicare. So maybe explain that a little bit for our viewers so they can understand and it doesn't seem like this black hole. You know?
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of people do view it as a black hole, and that's a scary situation. So that's the benefit of going with me. I'm able to educate them on their options, and it may not be the prettiest right at the start, but at the same time I'm able to show them all of their options and educate them on the different avenues and pretty much make it make sense for them.
Okay. So I know I've helped some of my clients with it, and it's nice to have a good agent like you to help them, but you know, say they retire, then they've got a certain amount of months to qualify for COBRA, right? They could buy that if that's a good deal. I know some of my clients are just like, oh my God, it's so expensive. Why is COBRA so expensive? I was like, it's the same price. You just have to pay the employer part now.
That's exactly
And I was like, your
right.
employer was hooking you up. You
A lot
didn't
of people
even know
don't
it.
realize that. And they think, here I am overpaying, but really their employer's matching them at the same time.
Yep.
So they're just almost spoiled into it. I don't like to use that word, but that's kind of the sense of it.
Yep.
And so when you have to pay for the full price plans, it's a little overwhelming.
Yeah, yeah. You know, that's one thing that you know, I kind of believe personally is like, I think the employers should just give all the money to the employees and all the premium should be paid by the employees. So not to where it makes them different, but I think people should be mad about how much stuff costs. And like you said, I think most of the people in this country are spoiled that they don't see it. And even their $200 or $300 a month that they see,
It could be.
they think that's a lot versus like the $80 they were paying 5 or 6 years ago. But if they had to pay the whole thing, even if the employer gave it to them, but to where it got deducted back out of their paycheck,
Right.
they would be mad.
Right.
More
And
mad
you
than they
could
are
see-
now.
You could see the rising costs and salaries if you didn't offer benefits.
Yeah.
Because it costs so much. It's one of the top expenditures from business owners.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't realize that.
Oh yeah, yep. That's one of the frustrations that we have because we do 401ks and pensions, and it will have such a big impact, like the things that we do to help employees. But all the HR and the employers want to think about is health insurance. How can we cut our health insurance? And like what we're trying to do in terms of their dollars doesn't hardly make a dent.
That's
you
right.
know? And so it's frustrating to get them to focus on something that can make their employees' lives better, but they're mainly focusing on the bottom line, which, I mean, I guess that's a lot of businesses' job, but still,
That's exactly
you got to take
right.
care of your employees too. But anyways, okay, so so again, so we were talking about the COBRA, then you go to the individual insurance, and then they can shop that, you know, through the exchange or off the exchange with private insurance, and the policies are no different in cost, and there's more on the private exchange, right? And so the only difference would be, do you qualify for a subsidy? And then if you don't, you're probably better off shopping off the exchange, right?
Well, it depends. There's a lot of options outside of the exchange.
Okay.
The exchange offers qualified health plans that cover pre-existing conditions. Everybody's guaranteed issue.
Yes.
So there's a lot of positive that comes from that. But because of all those things that they have to cover, like maternity and contraceptives, the costs go up.
Sure.
And they go up year after year.
Yeah.
So being a broker, we're able to offer plans off the exchange, as well as even faith-based plans, like Christian Health Ministries.
Gotcha.
So
Yeah.
we're able to offer all of those routes for our clients.
Some more choices.
That's exactly right.
But you have to medically qualify, right?
Dependingly.
Okay.
Certain products you do have to go through underwriting, and that's what drives the cost down.
Sure. So I know a lot of times when we do planning, depending on the couple and how old they are, we do a plan. We'll say, all right, your health insurance is this now. When you retire at 62, we're going to assume that you guys are going to pay $18,000 a year. And then when you hit Medicare, it'll be like $6,000 some per year. So, you know, just FYI for you guys, some like general, obviously it could be different for different people, but, you know, especially if we engineer their income to be lower to like artificially qualify them for, well, I guess it wouldn't be artificial, but I say it like
There
that,
are some
artificially
ways,
qualify
right,
for
like
subsidies.
contributing to
So we just
401k.
make them look poor for a while. They'll jack it back up after they get to Medicare and withdraw more from pre-tax accounts or what so. But anyway, so then that's how, the individual, they shop through you, then they get to Medicare, and then they got a choice, right? So do I go into A and B and get a supplement, or do I do the Advantage? Tell us a little bit about that.
That's right. So right when you age into Medicare, typically you are issued Part A and Part B. Part A is the hospitals, Part B is the doctors. That's what they call original Medicare. And the thing about that is about 80% of all of those bills will be covered by the state. But then the 20% is on you. So it doesn't matter if you have a $100 bill, you're going to owe $20 roughly. And if you have a $1 million bill, you're going to owe about $200,000. So that's a scary realization.
Sure, absolutely.
So that's why a lot of people will put into place a supplement to take care of that 20%, for the simple reason that there's no limit to how much you'd be responsible for. And that brings us into Part C, which is a Medicare Advantage plan. And that is a lot like the under 65 health insurance, where you have copays, you have deductibles, and max out-of-pockets. So you do have a limit to those. Now, the benefit of going with that is plans start at $0 every month for those plans. And so you pay your Part A, Part B, and you get a plan just like that, and could cost you no more every month.
So the difference is, to my understanding, like when you're looking at that, it's kind of like shopping your employer plans as well too. You need to make sure that your doctors are in the network, kind of like HMO or PPO, that the drugs that you take are going to be covered, et cetera, so there's no nasty surprises or what so. So even though you save money on the premium, and that might work for 50 or 60% of people, there'll be some other people that your out-of-pocket can end up being more if you weren't to check it. But I have had multiple clients that have done the Advantage, and instead of the 100 and what is it now, the $30-some per month for the Part B plus their Medigap policy, which costs them like $250 a month, then they're zero, right? And then they're pretty healthy, so they're saving like $3,000-some per year. It's almost like a higher deductible plan.
Could be.
So cool. So switching gears a little bit, when we think about the exchange and even the individual policies, even though they may not be labeled off the exchange as this, tell people, because they probably heard this, what's the difference between the high deductible and the bronze and the silver and the gold,
So a lot of people always get caught up with the deductible, and a lot of people sweat it because we're never reaching our deductible, or we have to reach that before the insurance companies pay anything towards our medical bills. And that's essentially pretty true, aside from the copays and everything. But the difference is the high deductible plans, that's all your responsibility before the insurance company covers some co-insurance. So the big thing to focus on is the max out-of-pocket. Because essentially, if we're hospitalized, we're going to reach our max out-of-pocket overnight. And that's whether we have a low or a high deductible. So the big thing to focus on is how much you're willing to take a hit on, if you will, if the worst case situation happens. And then you factor in the monthly cost. Because while the max out-of-pockets are roughly the same throughout the whole year, it doesn't make much sense if it could be $300 more every single month for a low deductible plan, but you're never going to reach your deductible year after year typically. So then you factor in how much it's going to cost and the difference. And then what we're able to do at Health Markets is we're able to build in some supplemental protection to cover the things that really matter, to really protect our clients out of pocket.
So I know, like the exchange ones, like the true high deductible ones that are below the bronze, those are only eligible up to a certain age, right? Was it like 25 to 30, somewhere in between there, and then you can't do those.
There's some young adult essentials.
And you can't do those, but those are maybe like 30% less than the bronze plans, which are high deductible plans. So if you're young and healthy, maybe you could get a policy for $150 a month versus the bronze being at $250 or $280 or what so. And then what are those? It's usually like $5,000 to $7,000, like deductible, and then the out-of-pocket and the deductible on some of those are the same, aren't they? Like where it's just like you hit it, you got to pay 100%.
Typically, yes.
And then they'll kick in, but they still pay for all the preventative care and stuff like that. So if you're super healthy,
and that's all from
then maybe that's a good deal and you can keep your money, but you just got to realize you could be on the hook. You get in a car accident or
that's exactly right.
Leukemia or something like you were talking about.
Right,
major.
And that's the big thing of focusing on the supplemental insurance plans to protect for accidents and critical illnesses like cancers, heart attacks and strokes. those are a big thing that people don't factor in.
Now, can people buy exchange policies through you?
Absolutely.
Okay. So, one of the things that I have noticed, I don't have a lot of experience with this because a lot of people that qualify for subsidies don't hire a financial advisor. But I have played with the exchange and what's so, and I've noticed that if you do qualify for subsidies, there's not a huge difference between like the gold plan and the bronze plan when the government's paying for you, right? So like if you are getting a subsidy, sometimes it might pay to go for the higher ones just because it might be harder for them to pay the deductible, right? And the government's covering like 3/4 of the cost for them anyways. I mean,
Sure.
What are your thoughts on that?
Well, the subsidy will stay the same no matter what plan you go with.
Yeah.
However, the health insurance marketplace, they offer cost-sharing programs where they lower deductibles based upon your income, and they lower your out-of-pocket.
Okay.
Also for co-pays too. So those plans will still cost more than the bronze plans per se,
Sure.
but they do offer that as an option.
And then you may not have as much out of pocket if something bad happens or what, so.
That's right.
Yeah, all right, cool. So, let's see. So I think we already touched on this, but just to reinforce, I think a lot of people think that they need to go online and do it themselves, but the way that the marketplace and the exchanges and everything's set up, that whether you go to an agent or whether you go online, you can pay the same thing, right?
It
so you might as
depends
well get
what
some
agency
help,
you
right?
go with. Right. But if you come to any health markets agent, we don't charge any fees on top of what we do.
Okay.
Our time, our services come completely cost-free, so it doesn't matter
To
if
the client.
Yeah,
Yeah.
to the client, anybody enrolling. So it doesn't matter if you go on the exchange to the marketplace yourself and do all the shopping online, or you take advantage of some expert advice. There's going to be the same price.
Cool, cool. So, any last thoughts or advice you would leave with everybody before we finish up?
Well, it depends on your situation. I would say with no cost, there's no factor, there's no risk factor, so you might as well get in touch with the local agent and have them make sense and educate you on all your options, because there's no fees, so you're only wasting your time, but at the same time we are able to do it the right way, which then wouldn't be a waste of time if you're shopping for it on your own.
Sure.
So it seems to make sense as a win-win-win, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you guys for spending part of your day with us. Join in next week. We're going to have Mark Lejeune on from Employment Solutions. So if you're looking for a change of pace or a new job, or you're an employer that just can't find the right people, be sure to tune in on that. And then the week after that, we've got Andy Chiedo coming on, who does creative business writing. So I'm really interested for that one as well. Thanks again to Sean for coming in.
Thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Really important subject. We hope you guys got something from it. If you got questions, give him a ring. His information was along the bottom. You can always give us a ring as well, too. We'll try to help you point in the right direction. So have a super weekend. Finally, spring is here. Knock on wood. And we will see you next week.
Take care, guys.